What's going on, everyone? Jeff Woods here. I wanted to talk to you about the 3 most valuable lessons that I learned this year since I have been here in Austin, Texas, and having the opportunity to work with guys like a Gary Keller and a Jay Papasan who co-authored The One Thing. 3 things. We'll dive right into them to share them with you right away. The first is learning to think big, but to start small. What do I mean by this? This first happened when I was meeting with Gary, and I'm hearing him talk about how important it is to cast that big vision way down the line, just massive, massive vision in terms of what you want to do with your life. A lot of people will do that. You know, you're probably a big thinker. You probably have really big goals and dreams for your life. The thing that is different with most high achievers is that they think big, but then they start by acting incredibly, incredibly small. I had noticed for so long, it's easy to get up at a 40,000 foot to be thinking the big game, and then you start trying to take bigger action. The challenge and the mistake that most people make is that they don't narrow their focus down enough. They don't act small enough to the point where it really matters. Because quite often you can say, all right, I need to go build this funnel, or I need to go get all these coaching clients, or I need to double my sales. But you don't necessarily narrow down to the one specific measurable activity that if you did that specific activity consistently would make everything else easier or unnecessary and would allow you to accomplish those big goals. And over this past year we've worked with, I was tallying the numbers this morning, close to 800 people become masters of their time. The number one challenge I see with them as well is they'll pick a habit that they want to form, like losing weight or transforming their eating habits or meditating or doubling their lead generation, boosting their sales, but they never get, unless we help them, they never narrow it down small enough to a very specific measurable action that is black or white. You either do or do not do this thing. So that's hands down number 1. Think big, but start small. The second thing is acting in order of priority. This came from an experience that I had with Gary when I was presenting my business plan to him. I walked in, I had my business plan on a sheet of paper, and it was 3 bullet points, 1, 2, 3, and they were in order of priority. And we talked about number 1. He asked a bunch of questions. I answered them, said we good. He said, yep, we moved on. Well, then I started talking about number 2. About halfway through number 2, Gary stopped me and he asked some questions about number 1. I didn't think anything of it, but I answered the questions. I said, we good? He goes, yep. And I got back into number 2. I wrapped up number 2 and started to talk about number 3. And he stops again and goes back to number 1, asking more questions about number 1. I'm going, okay. I answer the questions. I say, we good? He goes, yep. I get back into number 3 and I'm talking about it for no more than a few seconds until he stops me again and he says, quick question. Do you need to do number 3 to accomplish number 2? And I said, no. He said, do you need to do number 2 to accomplish number 1? I said, no. He said, then do me a favor. Go ahead and put a line between number 1 and number 2, or even better, cross it off. And don't even think about number 2 or number 3 until you have mastered number 1. Here's my question for you. When you look at your to-do list, all the things that you could do, are you hyper clear about what the most important activity is that will give you the biggest results? And do you focus relentlessly on just knocking that lead domino down first before you do anything else? I have found that most people do not have a habit of doing this consistently. This has transformed my business this year because I am so hyper clear on what I need to be doing every single day in order of priority. And if and when I do act out of priority, I'm aware of it. And that's a moment of personal accountability for me. So my need to have other people in my life to hold me accountable has gone down tremendously because now it's so clear. I know what my priorities are. The third thing that really transformed things for me this year was getting comfortable saying a really powerful 2-letter word. And that word is no. So often we feel like we have to attend these meetings, or we have to be in our email, or we have to return a phone call or a text message. What I realized this year is when you say yes with your actions, What you're really doing is saying no to everything else that you could be doing at that moment. The result is quite often we end up saying no to ourselves and to the people who we care about most because we're too busy responding to everyone else's requests and demands and priorities. That changed for me this year. I now say yes to myself first. I do my most important work first on my terms. I respond to email on my terms. If you email me, you'll get an automatic reply that says, I only check email twice a week. My virtual assistant's in here every day checking email, but just understand that it could take me several weeks to get back to you. I have set the precedent that I am not responsive to this channel, and I will not allow email to take over my day because I'm in control of my time. These are 3 of the most powerful things that I have learned this year. Thinking big but acting small, acting in order of priority, and learning how to say no. The people who have been in the inner circle have learned about this year because every 2 weeks we've been on a training being able to interact where I'm sharing these things and people are able to take action and go immediately. You know, all this growth that I've had this last year, it's been the most expansive year of my life. I have then taken and brought to that community. And you're getting this video right now because we are at the end of the year and we are about to shut the doors to the inner circle. Up until this point, it's been open. You could join at any time, but we are about to close the doors because we're going to get that final group of people in. We're going to service them really, really well. We're going to add a tremendous amount of value to them while we revamp the inner circle. And when it launches next year, it'll be under a new brand and it'll be under a new price point. So if you are one of those people who believes that if you are surrounded by a community of like-minded people who are all marching toward the same goal as you, and to have a little bit more exposure to me and the ideas that I am actually implementing on a day-to-day basis, then I suggest that you join the inner circle right now, because when we close the doors, they will be closed at this price point for good. So with that, click the button below this and sign up for the inner circle. I'll see you in there.